In today's episode of Pokemon Investment News, we are finally seeing Pokemon card prices start to settle down after months of rapid growth. So in today's video, I'll show you how you can select the best Pokemon cards that have the highest growth potential. And we'll also cover one story of a man who recently purchased a complete first edition PSA 10 base set for a record price. But we won't only talk about vintage Pokemon cards, we'll also check up on the health of modern Pokemon cards by looking at the growth of recent sales in Hidden Fates Master Sets in today's episode of Pokemon Investment News. Starting off with some recent news, Jeremy Padawer, co-president of Wicked Cool Toys, a global strategic partner for the Pokemon Company, has recently purchased a complete first edition Shadowless base set for the whopping price of $129,000. This is a record sale for the complete first edition Shadowless base set. Usually these sales don't reach the public and buyers' identity are kept private. But in this case, Jeremy has instead shown off his collection and purchase on Instagram, providing proof that he did in fact make the purchase. In a recent interview on the Adventures in Collecting podcast, Jeremy stated, "Pokemon has a special place in my heart. I've been a part of the brand for the last 15 years and had the opportunity to see it grow into what it is today, which is one of the most important brands in the history of entertainment." When asked about the Pokemon card collecting hobby, Jeremy stated that he thinks the age demographic for Pokemon card collectors is still fairly young, with most collectors being in their 20s and 30s. And as these collectors grow older and keep an interest in the hobby, they will only gain purchasing power. So he expects that the hobby has plenty of room for growth within the next 10 to 15 years. Jumping off that topic, we'll also check up on the health of modern Pokemon cards by looking at the recent sales in Hidden Fates Master Sets. Hidden Fates is one of the most popular Pokemon card sets in recent memory, so it is a great indicator of how healthy the hobby is right now. Master Sets are complete sets of Pokemon cards that cover every single variations of cards in that set. That includes secret rares as well as holographic reverses. 2 to 3 months ago, you could commonly see Hidden Fates Master Set sell for around $1,000. Today, they are going for anywhere from $1,800 to $2,250 today. This is a great sign that there is genuine interest and enthusiasm in the hobby. In examples where there are not genuine interest in the hobby, you will see growth in sealed products, but not so much in binder sets or collector's items like master sets, because these are usually only purchased by true collectors, whereas most flippers will tend to stick to sealed products. So seeing the growth in Hidden Fates Master Sets is a great sign to me that currently modern Pokemon cards are doing very well. On to the main topic of today's video, I wanted to share with you how I select the best Pokemon cards that have the highest growth potential, because this is a common question that people always ask. Jake, how do you pick what Pokemon cards to collect? Some examples of Pokemon cards in my own collections that have done really well, both vintage and modern, I would select Birthday Pikachu as well as the Stained Glass Bird Trio. I want you guys to keep these cards in mind when you think about the 3 factors that I use when I select Pokemon cards to invest in. I look at 3 main factors when I select a Pokemon card to collect in, and they go in this order. First, I always check for the demand/interest in the card. Then I look at the supply or rarity of the card. And finally, I look at the condition of the card. Demand/interest actually covers a really broad area. Does the card look good to you? Do you like the card? Do you enjoy looking at the card? Do you love the card? If you answer no, then really this isn't a card you should be collecting. If you yourself don't like the card, don't collect it. That is a big issue. I think a lot of people collect cards that they don't even like. And if you're collecting a card that you don't like, why would anyone else like it if you don't even like it? And the reason why demand trumps supply when I look at collectibles is it's all about interest. How much people enjoy the card. It doesn't matter how rare something is if no one is interested in it. You could have a potato chip shaped like Jesus. And is it rare? Sure. It could be a one of a kind, sure. But does anyone actually care about it? Is anyone interested? Does anyone want to purchase it? That is a really important first factor. So the first thing I look for is genuine interest and demand in a card. Because a lot of people come to me and they say, Jake, this card is super rare. This card is so rare. Jake, I have a one of a kind. Why is it so cheap? It's cheap because no one cares. It doesn't matter how rare something is if no one's interested in it. So that's the first key factor you should look for when you are picking a card to collect. How in demand is it? How much genuine interest is it? And do you even like the card? If you don't, then probably that's not the right card for you. Once you've selected a card that you genuinely enjoy, then you should look at the supply/rarity of the card. How readily available is it? Can people pick it up right now from any retail store? If they can pick it up right now from a retail store, that's probably not a card that you want to collect a lot of. If you enjoy it, have a copy of it in your own collection, that's great. But that's probably not a card that you want to have 100 copies of. If it is really readily available, then it is probably not a card that is great for collecting or investing in. You really want a chase card, something that has a little bit of a challenge to get. The more difficult it is to get that card, the more collectors tend to pay a premium for the card. Collectors like having a chase. Collectors like having a challenge. Collectors like having a card that they have in their collections that other people do not have in their collection. So then after selecting a card that has high demand and genuine interest, then I look at the supply and rarity of the card, how quickly it is for that card to run out of supply. That is the next factor I look for. The last factor that I look for in a good quality collectible is the condition. How good is the copy that I have in my own collection, and how good are the copies available on the market right now? In most cases, people want as close to a perfect copy of a collectible as you can get. And this goes completely true with Pokemon cards. In most cases, a PSA 10 Pokemon card tend to hold a 5 times to 10 times premium over a PSA 9. And while a PSA 9 is an almost exact copy of a PSA 10, most collectors see a PSA 9 as an imperfection. The fact that there is a better copy available and they do not have it. I can tell you that most collectors are kind of very irkish over PSA 9s just because they know there is a better one out there and they don't have it. So in most cases, the final factor that I look for is condition. How hard is it to get a PSA 10? How many PSA 10s are available? And how many of those I can get in my own collection? You want the best conditions for your card once you've decided that there is genuine interest in that card and it is very rare. Going back to my original example, why did I pick the Birthday Pikachu card and the Hidden Fates Tag Team GX, Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno Stained Glass Bird card to invest and collect in? Well, these cards are cards that I really enjoy. I love the artwork. They're super immaculate, super unique. I really enjoy them as cards. And at the same time, they hit all three of my factors. Tons of demand and plenty of interest, low on the supply side, and I know I could get PSA 10 copies of both. So they hit all three of my factors, and those are the reasons why I invested in these cards. And of course, these are just two examples. There are a ton of other cards that you could definitely pick and choose to collect in. And if you're saying, hey Jake, I have this card in my collection and it's doing really well, it probably hits all three of those factors, which is high in demand, low in supply, tons of interest in them, and you probably have a highly mint copy. When you have all of those factors in place, that's when you have a home run card. That's when a card goes from $100 to $1,000 to $10,000. Another example I could give you guys on how demand and interest is just way more important than supply and rarity is base set Charizard. Base set Charizard, I've said this before, is not a rare card. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of copies of base set Charizard. They printed a lot of that card, and honestly, it doesn't even matter. There's just so much demand and interest in Charizard. It's an incredibly iconic card. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it. There's tons and tons of copies available, but it doesn't matter. Even though you could buy a copy right now, the price on that card has continuously gone up because of the interest, because of the love for the card. Charizard, people are constantly buying and buying more of it. Most people, when they collect Charizard, and especially the base set card, you don't have one. You normally have 10 to 20 or more of base set Charizard. It's such an amazing card that most people, when they start collecting it, they don't collect one. Once you have a PSA 5 base set Charizard, the next thing you're going to want is a PSA 6 and then a PSA 7. You're just constantly upgrading. You're always chasing the next big card. It's just an endless ride with Charizard. So that's another great example of how having a card that is highly demanded and interested in is way more important than having a card that is really rare. Alright everybody, that's the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Do you agree or disagree with the factors that I listed, or do you have a different way that you select Pokemon cards for your own collection? I would love to hear about it. And if you disagree, then feel free to leave me a comment as well. Of course, if you ever have a question, feel free to ask me. I love answering your questions and I read through every single comment. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.